1/5 of the world's oil moves through just 54 kilometers of water every single day. The Strait of Hormuz is a choke point on the brink, and the global economy is one incident away from learning what happens when it closes. This narrow stretch of water separates the rugged cliffs of Oman's Musandam Peninsula from the southern coast of Iran. The actual navigable channels are incredibly tight. 2 parallel lanes, each only 2 miles wide, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. Yet through this restricted gateway, tankers transport 21 million barrels of oil and refined products every single day. This massive concentration of physical trade represents nearly a quarter of all seaborne petroleum, squeezed through a corridor smaller than many regional bays. The global market relies on the daily, uninterrupted flow of these massive vessels, leaving the modern industrial economy completely dependent on a geographic sliver. This corridor functions as a direct price-setting artery for the global economy, carrying an estimated $2 billion worth of oil every single day. For the dominant Gulf producers, the waterway remains the only viable marine gateway to international buyers, binding their state revenues directly to its security. Saudi Arabia directs roughly 80% of its petroleum exports through this narrow passage. The United Arab Emirates is even more exposed, forcing approximately 90% of its crude through these same lanes. Kuwait's dependence is almost absolute, with 95% of its entire export portfolio requiring safe transit to reach the ocean. This extreme concentration of trade means the world relies on one single corridor for a massive, irreplaceable share of its daily energy flow, linking global economic stability directly to the peace of these waters. On the northern shores of the strait, Iran maintains a network of coastal bases that overlook these narrow shipping lanes. From these positions, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operates a layered threat system designed for asymmetric warfare. In these tight, 2-mile-wide channels, swarms of heavily armed fast attack craft can quickly surround and harass massive tankers. Shore-based anti-ship missiles, hidden in coastal cliffs, can strike targets across the entire waterway, effectively turning the shipping lanes into a shooting gallery without requiring a single troop landing. Beneath the surface, silent diesel-electric submarines force commercial ships and military escorts to hunt for invisible threats. To counter this posture, the United States Fifth Fleet, operating from nearby Bahrain, maintains a constant patrol of warships to deter any attempt to close the corridor. The threat of a total shutdown is a recurring reality. In 2007, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad warned that his forces could shut down the waterway entirely during a standoff with the United States. 15 years later, in 2022, Revolutionary Guard Commander Hossein Salami declared the strait a bargaining chip, backing his words with sudden vessel seizures and blacked-out tracking systems. A complete stoppage does not require a formal blockade. A single floating mine, a collision, or a military miscalculation can instantly freeze traffic. This risk is locked in by a fundamental dispute over maritime law. While international treaties signed by most nations assert a non-suspendable right of transit passage, Iran recognizes only the more restrictive code of innocent passage, providing a perpetual pretext to halt civilian shipping at will. If the Strait of Hormuz closes, the only practical sea detour is sailing around Africa. Bypassing the strait via the Cape of Good Hope adds more than 7,000 kilometers, roughly 4,350 miles, to a voyage. This detour forces tankers to spend an extra 10 to 14 days at sea. These delays disrupt shipping schedules and exhaust global vessel capacity, causing immediate strain across entire supply chains. Rerouting is not a realistic immediate answer. The world's backup plan is slow, costly, and incomplete. A complete halt in traffic immediately triggers a global economic shockwave. Oil prices would instantly surge, with market models projecting Brent crude spiking to $150 and potentially soaring toward $200 a barrel if the crisis drags on. This initial price explosion rapidly filters down to consumers, driving up everyday gasoline prices, diesel costs, and home heating bills. Higher fuel costs quickly trigger massive freight inflation, raising the price of every item carried on trucks, trains, and cargo ships. Global supply chains, already strained, begin to seize as shipping delays compound. Some economic models estimate that just 1 week of a total shutdown could inflict up to $5 trillion in global damage, triggering a severe worldwide recession. This exposes the ultimate gamble. How much longer can the modern world run its entire economy through a single, highly vulnerable corridor, with no real backup plan? Today, our global economy remains hostage to these volatile waters. The question isn't if Hormuz closes, but how a fragile world survives when it does. Share your thoughts below.